What the hell is going on in the animation industry? Growing unemployment rate, workers getting laid off from studios, animation students being terrified of the future before even graduating, people giving up on their dreams before even starting, uncertainty because of the state of the economy, animators leaving the industry because they are so fed up with everything, constantly being exploited, overworked and underpaid. Seriously, many things need to change. As an animator myself, I would lie if I said I'm not concerned or worried. To me, animation is the most beautiful and complex art form. I don't want people who contribute to making the world a better place by creating animation to give up on their dreams. I don't want their talent and hard work to go to waste. I don't want them to worry about paying bills, to worry about whether they can continue their career, which they have worked so hard for. I don't want them to be taken granted for because of their passion for animation. This doesn't only go for animators, it goes for storyboard and background artists, for in-betweeners, colorists, cleanup artists, art directors, compositors, editors, the list could be continued. There is a paradox. The animation market is growing, yet quite many people who work in the field leave because of the conditions and current state of the industry. Some animators completely switch careers, which is sad. Why has staying in the industry become this hard? Why are there such huge layoffs? Why do shows get cancelled? Is streaming actually good for animation? What's up with the insane unemployment rate? We need to talk about the main issues and a few other quite interesting things as well. So, I have an interesting little story. It's organically connected to the topic of the video, but if you are not curious, you can skip this part. My childhood friend and I recently reunited after not talking for more than 10 years. To my surprise, she told that after graduating from uni, she attended a 2-year animation course which she finished last year. We talked about a lot of things and she asked me if I could give her advice regarding working in the animation industry. She told me that she is struggling with finding work and she feels pressured because her parents are constantly asking what she's up to, what she is going to do with her life and stuff. At that moment, I felt deep empathy towards her, because I know how frustrating and stressful it can be when you can't find a job in your field and how much anxiety it can cause. You know, I wanted to be real with her. I didn't want to be like, oh, it's okay, just try to reach out to studios and try looking for jobs online. I'm sure you will find something. I'm kind of an honest person and I will give you some tough love when you need it. I won't lie to your face. So I told her the animation industry is tough AF. Anyway, I knew something was up when I was contemplating and thinking about my life choices and career last year. Like, I can't be the only one, right? This conversation with my childhood friend opened my eyes. When my friend told me that she had read that the unemployment rate in the animation industry has been on a rise, that there has been huge layoffs, and that she saw other people online talking about this topic, I thought, wait a minute, this is interesting. I was struggling with this too, and in the beginning I was blaming myself, thinking it must be because I'm not skilled enough, blah blah blah. But as I was too focused on myself and on finding solutions, it didn't even cross my mind that I should maybe do research on this, that there might be other people facing the same problem. Because working in animation is so niche, especially in Central or Eastern Europe. Animators being unemployed in Western countries sounded so unreal to me. It's so funny how this story unfolded. I talked to another friend who told me his friend is a part-time animator, part-time tattoo artist, and he was recently fired from the studio he had been working at. Then I meet my childhood friend who tells me her lore. The pieces started to come together. It's like it was literally confirmed to me, see, you are not the problem, duh. Well, for the most part, I'm not the problem, but I can't run from becoming a better animator and I can't keep blaming the industry either. Anyway, I was like, I have to make a video about this. This is not a coincidence. So I made research and I found some quite terrifying but also interesting things. But don't worry, we're not completely doomed. Maybe I'm a bit delusional, but it's better than giving up on my dreams and making a 180-degree turn switching careers. That should be my last resort. Well, I almost did it last year, but that's another story. I'm so glad I didn't. You might be wondering, what's the reason behind the huge layoffs in the industry recently? Unfortunately, I can't give a proper answer because I can't see inside these big companies. People who distribute the money and make it move are the ones in control, and not all but many of these people are often led by greed. Animation has always been undervalued in the entertainment industry. Even with adult animation becoming more and more popular over the years, many workers say that they are not valued enough. This is very clear and obvious to see. When things get hard economically, animators are often the first to be let go. There are so-called boom cycles that happen in the industry. Now it seems like the latest cycle is starting to wear off. As big companies are trying to navigate through the economic downturn, is the production, artistic vision, and most importantly, the staff that are going to suffer. In 2022, Netflix cancelled 11 animated shows. Warner Bros. Discovery laid off 125 workers and cancelled 37 animated shows. Some were literally removed from HBO Max. Having a career in animation means you work from gig to gig. It's already quite hard to get a chance to work in a co-show or movie. Then let's say you get hired A, to work full-time in a studio, or B, as a freelancer. A project usually lasts 1, 2, or maximum 3 years. If you talk about a movie with a higher budget, it can be longer, of course. Animators have to plan their finances in advance because they know there might be months or even a year when they are unemployed, especially when they haven't been in the industry for a long time and they don't have a lot of connections. They have to hustle a lot to land a gig. They constantly have to improve their skills and learn new stuff as well. So when they sign a contract for a series or movie, they are relieved that their life and finances will be stable for a certain period of time. Imagine how these animators must have felt when the episode orders suddenly got cut off. Months or years of contracted work get pulled away from them just like that. By doing this, companies don't only cut the shows but the financial plans of animators as well. Nowadays, if a production gets greenlighted, that doesn't automatically mean it's safe. Hundreds of people who work on these productions have no job security, and there's nothing and no one who protects them. All of this makes it harder for animators to stay in the industry, and it frightens freshly graduated animators who have no experience yet. It also makes a lot of people who want to work in animation give up before they would even start learning. A person who works in animation told IGN the following: "The level of disrespect is insane to me. Throughout the pandemic, animation was the thing that kept working perfectly the same. Where everything else was shut down, like animation could still be made, and so that kept studios afloat. For them to turn around and do stuff like this is frankly disgusting." I feel what they said because I landed my first serious gig in my second year at uni when the pandemic was at its peak. When I attended an animation course before uni, the teacher kept telling us, there is not enough animators who can do the work, that's why movies and series constantly get postponed. It's true that there are not many people who choose animation as their career, especially in a small country that used to be a part of the Soviet bloc. So I thought I won't have to be afraid of being unemployed because there's a high demand for animation, but a low supply of animators. This was back in 2017-2018. If you are also an animator or artist and you are up on Twitter, you probably have noticed how many accounts are on the platform with looking for work or available for work in their display name or bio. The two main factors of the high unemployment rate can be A, the huge layoffs. Many of the unemployed animation artists have experience and are looking for work, or B, the animators with no experience struggle to break into the industry even though they clearly can animate. Many of them are actually very talented. The age of streaming has also changed the animation industry. People are realizing that the business model Netflix established and other streaming platforms followed is unsustainable, or at least in the current form. Of course, there are pros of streaming. It's accessible, shows reach viewers from all across the world. Many series that aren't exclusively made for streaming are up on these platforms as well. It has also opened the door for a wider range of animation styles and genres. But the problem is, streaming services are too number obsessed. For example, if a certain amount of people don't watch the second episode of a show after the first, that can be bad news for the staff. Before streaming, when a show was airing on television, people had to wait a week after each episode. They couldn't just access the next episode with 1 or 2 clicks. Having to wait made them more likely to watch. Of course, I know that there are series where not every episode is dropped at once but week by week. And I'm grateful that still there are shows that aren't specifically made for streaming but rather for TV, and they can be accessed on other platforms later. Many anime, for example. When shows were made for television, they weren't cancelled this easily, especially not in the middle of the production. That used to be a very rare case. Nowadays, because of the uncertainty and the profitability of streaming, and in order to cut costs, quite a few projects are being removed and cancelled. Streaming services rely on algorithms and data to measure access, determine budgets, and to shape programming. This and the long development of animated projects doesn't fit each other. Maybe I'm wrong, but in my opinion, it would be more optimal if companies focused on greenlighting a lower number of shows with higher quality and more animators working on them, giving the choice to either work at a studio or as a freelancer. But in the current state of the animation industry and economy, this sounds like a fairy tale. Companies look for cheaper ways to make animation. One solution to this is to outsource work to countries with worse labor conditions. Many Western studios outsource work to Asian countries. This is not just black and white, it gives a chance to animators in the given country to break into the industry. But of course, these workers will be paid less. I worked in Korea as a background artist and our team got paid way less than the American team. Same project, less money. And even the background artists in America should have been and should be paid more fairly. This can be said about other staff members too. Companies outsource work to smaller, third-party studios investing little, but still expect the quality of animation and backgrounds and everything else to be very high. This is another reason of the layoffs I talked about. Obviously, if Western studios can outsource work to cheaper countries, they won't need as many local animators because there will be people who can do the work for less money and in the same quality. But what's the case with Japan? We know that Japanese companies often outsource anime work to Korea and China, for example. As I said earlier, this is not just black and white. Subcontracting work overseas doesn't always happen to cut costs, especially when we talk about Japanese studios. They outsource work that is considered lesser, imagine this word with huge quotation marks, such as doga, coloring, and background work. When I worked in Korea, we got lots of anime work and often we didn't get it directly from Japanese but rather from other Korean studios. The Japanese studio gives work to bigger support studios in Korea, then they distribute it further to smaller teams who often do one type of work in animation, background art in this specific case. By the way, you can find many of these support studios in Seoul. Some of them took a big part in making your favorite anime. So, is anime outsourcing done to cut costs? The answer is no, because it may cost more than making anime in-house. Individual rates may become lower, but studios need to contract more companies and middlemen who translate and communicate with the staff. The workflow becomes a bit more difficult because communication doesn't happen directly and production assistants have to put in extra effort to managing work. There are not enough people working in the anime industry despite the fast growth year by year. It's understandable that not many people want to work in such harsh conditions, and many of those who do are underpaid and overworked. I feel like there have been slight positive changes in the past years, but there needs to be a massive shift. Outsourcing in itself is not an evil thing because, as I said, it gives a chance to people to work in animation, which they have probably dreamed of. You must have noticed that there are more and more freelancer animators working in anime from all over the world, not just from Japan, Korea or China. This shows the changing of the anime industry and can be a positive thing actually, but it would be even better if the rates were higher for both Japanese and international animators. I always wondered, if the industry is so huge, why can't companies pay the animators and other staff members more fairly? This goes for the US and Japan too. It's always the higher-ups who demand the shows to be animated, so maybe instead of being greedy AF, they could pay us more fairly? I'm so naive. And I find it quite interesting how animators can hardly find work in the States and in Europe, while there is a constant shortage of them in Japan and even in Korea. When I moved to Korea in 2022, I landed a job interview in less than 2 weeks after I arrived, and they asked if I could start working next week. When I came back, I was rejected and ghosted by several studios with twice the experience and a portfolio that is worth a lot more than when I started working in the industry. You probably have noticed how the industry have been shifting from traditional studio work to freelance work. This has its ups and downs as well. Freelance animation writers sometimes earn less than a third of what live action writers do. There are less and less full-time studio positions. It's cheaper to hire freelancers anywhere in the world. I don't even want to say how low the paycheck is of freelancers who do anime work in Korea at small studios. And most of the time you can't even work from home. You have to spend at least 9 or 10 hours in the studio every weekday, sometimes on the weekends as well. Working as a freelancer in animation can still be pretty good though. But in order to make a living this way, you have to be very skilled, have to be able to manage your time very effectively, have to have a solid portfolio, have to be very ambitious, and you always have to be prepared and plan everything really well in advance. That's why I wouldn't advise newbies to start with freelance work. I'm being a bit contradictory here because I actually studied animation work as a freelancer. That gave me the chance to be able to work from home during the pandemic. We all have to start somewhere, right? I would advise you to save up first and then go freelance later if you can. It's okay to do a different kind of part-time or full-time job before animating professionally, because getting into studios almost seems impossible nowadays. That's why I am a bit mad, because I think getting experience at a studio is very important. Working at a studio for at least 6 months can teach you more than you can learn in 3 years at university. Uni can actually be good because you learn the basics of animation production and development, a bit of 3D, a bit of 2D and stop motion. You can start building your portfolio, etc. But studio work is worth a lot more in the long run. You improve a lot faster and learn stuff that is actually useful and needed. That's why despite the shit I went through in Korea, I'm still grateful that I got the chance to work at 2 studios. I love working as a freelancer better because it gives me more freedom. But it's not good to push rookie animators to work immediately this way. Let me explain why. Let's say John wants to become an animator and work in the industry. I don't know why I picked this name. Anyway, John starts to practice art in high school. He is improving fast. He is quite determined. He would like to learn animation at college. He passes the entrance exam and gets accepted to learn animation. He is excited. College is quite hard, but John manages to graduate with good grades and a nice portfolio. A few months later, he begins to look for a job in animation. He gets a bit nervous because most of the listed positions are freelance and or require at least 1 year of experience. Most entry-level jobs require skills that would take another 2 or 3 years to learn, and he would rather work in a different field if he had to choose. Bro wants to animate because he is an animator. But he doesn't give up. He keeps applying to jobs, he checks his emails every day, and also if there are new positions and opportunities listed. Months pass by and he either gets rejected or gets no answer at all. John is thinking of giving up, but he didn't watch Naruto for nothing. Datte bayo. Anyway, I know this sounds a bit depressing, but it is what it is. It takes years to get to a decent level at animation because it's so complex, and you have to decide which field you want to specialize in. How can you expect newbie animators to immediately work freelance without zero experience? Like their portfolio consists of stuff they made at uni or college and at home. How would they have professional work in it if you don't even let them work as an intern? And I know that so many of these hardworking animators would quickly be able to learn and adapt to professional work because it's their dream and goal to work in the industry. So why don't you give them a chance? Do you know what I told my friend when she asked for my advice? If you want to work in animation, you will have to suck it up and focus on improving and working towards your goals. If you don't focus on owning your skills, on learning new ones, improving both at animation and art, if you don't post on social media and don't have a clear plan and strategy, you won't make it. Some of you may be mad about the social media part, but unfortunately it's true. Believe me, I don't like consistently posting on social media either, but I have to do it if I want to widen the possibilities in my career. In the back of my mind, I already knew this, but recently I've become even more certain that in order to make it, I have to strive for becoming irreplaceable. This low-key sounds dramatic, but we have to show how much we are worth. I don't know when, but in the future I would like to make a video on how you can break into the industry and how you can build a career. I have experience, but for a full guide like this, it's not enough, and I don't want to lie or be unauthentic. But I would really like to help animation artists because I know how hard pursuing a career in this field can be. My last advice in this video would be to forget all what I said. Actually, don't. But I don't want you to feel negative. Staying in victim mentality will lead you nowhere. Maybe it will make things even worse. I know that we silly little animators can't really control the economy and the whole industry, but what we can control is our mindset and how determined we are to actually achieve our goals. Tatakae. I hope you could learn something from this video, and I also hope it didn't make you feel even more hopeless. I usually like to stay positive in my videos, but every now and then we have to accept and talk about the hardships as well. Oh, and I don't always ask you this, but I would be really glad if you considered subscribing to my channel because I put quite much time and energy into my videos. It will make your chakra and skin clear. Let me know your thoughts about this topic. Feel free to rant, to share your experience. I will gladly read all of your comments. Thank you for watching, stay hydrated and take care. Love and peace.